A good chodesh. Today we're learning about Mציעא Daf Tes. We're going to start from Tes Amud Beis. 5 lines up. Bnei Rav Elish. So Rav Elish was a rabbi and he passed away and he left his kids. Nofak alai wa ushtora. Da'avi kosi be palga ba'aga palga behefzed. A person came and he said, I gave Rav Elish merchandise, a iska, like we spoke before, and he accepted on himself half of what it goes up and half if it goes down. A normal case of iska that we said that's forbidden if he doesn't get paid, gepoil bottle. So Omar Rava, Rav Elish gave a rabbahu. Rav Elish was a chosh of a person, v'surely inish lo have a sofi. It doesn't make sense that he would do such a deal because it's also to do such a deal. So he wouldn't feed such ribbis to someone. So manafshoch, it must be one of the two. Ipalga be'agor, if the one who gave, we have by iska, we have two sides. We have the investor and we have the manager. So if the investor is getting half of the profits, trade tilsi behefsid, it must be that he's taking responsibility even more than half, 2/3 of the loss. And therefore, what we consider a loan is only a third. And the reason why the manager is getting the profits from a third to a half is for working on the other half, and therefore that's his payment. That could be one option. Option number two, if Ipalga be'efsed, if it's talking about that the investor only takes responsibility for half of the loss, meaning therefore it's half a loan and half Rav Elish is doing the work for this investor. Trade tilsi baga must be that Rav Elish was getting 2/3 in the profit. Because the one who's a manager always has to get a little bit more than the responsibility that he has. If he has a responsibility of half, he has to get paid more than a half, because otherwise it's ribis, he's working for the investor for free on his part. Omar Rav Kan, Amrita l'shmaitze kameder of Zuminador. I told this story, this whole situation, to Razvid who comes from Rador. Omar li, Dilma Rav Elish toivel imoy batzirava. Maybe he really was half in profit and half in gain, half in profit and half in loss. Olechera, it's forbidden to do so because it's a iska and it's forbidden. But no, maybe it's talking about that Rav Elish ate with the investor a little bit of the sauce of the fish. The Omar Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman said in last year we learned it, Alocha Krabiyuda, that it's enough, that's enough of a payment to pay him for dealing with his half. So maybe that was a payment. Why are you saying it must be there wasn't a fair in the profit and in the loss it was a different amount? Maybe it was really half. And what was his payment? They ate with him. He had some chips with him. Omalei lav ilchas itma. When Rav Nachman said on Sameches on base that Alocha Karabida, he didn't mean to say that Alocha is like him. Ele shita itma. He meant to say, because what did Rav Nachman say? Let's go back. Sameches on base a few lines up. Omar Rav Nachman, Alocha Karabida, Alocha Karabiyosib Rabida, Alocha Karabshim Gamliel. So we understood that means that Alocha is like all three of them. Now the Gemara is saying, no, it doesn't mean that Alocha is like them. It means that they all are the same shitta, that they all fit in together, but it doesn't mean that the Alocha is like them. And said the Gemara, Ochenami Mistabra, I bring you a raya, that's pshat in the words of Rab Nachman, the Iloi Teima Ochi, if you won't say so, Lama Lili Michshav Ulimim Alocha. Why did Rab Nachman have to say Alocha like him, Alocha like him, Alocha like him, and it's all the same thing? Leima Alocha Rabbi the Mekel Mikulu, you should say Alocha like Rabbi who was the most Mekel, and we'll understand that also Alocha like the other two. Elomai, all Rav Nachman was trying to tell you that these three shittis fit together and they go on the same shitta. They're all the same shitta, but it doesn't mean that he meant to say that Alocha is like them. Omar Rav, Moita shlish b'schorcha. So we talk about another case of a iska. Again, a iska is half profit, half loss. And in this case, the investor told the manager, Moita shlish b'schorcha. If you, now the animals, I'm giving you baby animals to make them grow, they're worth a certain amount. If they go up in value more than a third, anything above a third goes to the manager. And that's your payment extra than the 50% of the profit. I mean, until a third they went up in value, we split 50-50 the profit. Anything above a third, all goes to you. Aryeh mutter, it's mutter, because that's his payment for doing the work for the part of the investor. Very good in a case where he really made it go up in value more than a third, he's getting paid for the investor's part. But in a case where he didn't make it go up a third, he's going home with not getting paid anything for doing work for the investor, and that's ribis, it's a iska, it's forbidden. You could dinner. You have to, if you do such a deal that he gets more than a third, you also have to say, Andy, for sure, whatever happens, you'll get dinner for doing the work on my part of the investment. And therefore you solve the problem of the ribis, of the iska. Says the Gemara, V'sova Rav ein koitzitzim l'dinner. Does Rav hold they don't have to give the extra dinner? Rav said, Reish aglo leptuma, that when you have an investor and a manager and he gives them some cows to make them fat and big to shech them, so the manager, so you split everything 50-50, but the manager gets the head by himself. All the head goes to the manager, and that's a payment for him doing work for the investor's part. My love, we're not talking about the Omalei Moise Shlish B'Scharcha, that he said, wherever it makes more than a third, all goes to you, but he still also said you get the head. So we could see that you need both. And we're saying before Rav said that it's enough to say Moise Shlish B'Scharcha. So the Gemara, no, it's talking about the Ka'amalei I Moise Shlish. I'll give you all more than, if it goes up more than a third, it goes all to you. Irish Aglo Ptuma, I'll give you that. But not that you have to give you both. Iboy Seima, another teretz, Kikama Rav Moise Shlish B'Scharcha Mutter. When did Rav say that it's mutter? That the investor tells the manager, if it goes up in value more than third, it all goes to you. It's talking about when the manager anyway has his own animals. The Aryeh people say, Govileturi. If you're anyway mixing the food for one ox, you can mix the food for a few ox. Once you're doing the work, it doesn't matter if you're doing a bit more, so it's not really a big hassle. And therefore, only in such a case where the manager is not really doing a lot more work because he anyway has to do work for his own animals, that's when it's enough to give him the profits of above third to pay off for him doing the work on the investor's 50%. But in a normal case where he doesn't have his own ox, it's forbidden. And in the case where we said that Rav said he gave Reish Agro Leptuma, the Stoma way didn't have other oxes, other cows. He bought the animal, and he gave it to his Aryeh. So Aryeh was a person who would work in his field for a certain percentage. He'd do all the work, and he'd get a certain percentage of the crop. So he, except of doing that business of the growing the crop, he gave him the animal. He gave the animal like on the iska terms, 50-50 in the profits and in the losses. Maptimly, so the Aryeh would make it fat. We said you're not allowed to do iska. So what he would do, he'd give him the head. When after the checked animal, the head would go fully to the Aryeh. That was the payment for the Aryeh doing the work with the part that belongs to Rabbi Loza. That split half the profits of the rest. The wife of the Aryeh told the Aryeh, if you, when instead of getting this animal for Rabbi Loza, not investing, if you invest 50 and buy the animal with him, if you put in money, he'll be even happier. He only has to put half the money, and he'll also give you the tail of the cow fully, and you'll get also the head and also the tail. Also, he thought it's a good idea, the Aryeh, Ozal. When they did the next deal, he told Rabbi Eliezer, you know what, this time I want to put half of the capital. Ozal Zobin Badei. He bought with him, each one invested 50%, not like in the last case where Rabbi Eliezer put in all the investment. Came to split the profits. Poligle Malisa, he didn't give him the whole tail, did 50-50 like they did in the past. Omalei, and then Rabbi Loza told us the Aryeh, Tonaflig Bereshe. Let's split the head, half to me and half to you. So the Aryeh were shocked. Omalei, Ashta Kuri Nami Loi. If already before that you did the whole investment, I got all the head for myself. Now that I put half the investment, shouldn't I get at least what I was getting before when I didn't have any money involved? I should get at least the same. So Rabbi Loza told him, no. Omalei Adai Nizuzi Didi Havu. The whole investment was mine. If I wouldn't give you that little bit more that the head goes all to you, it's a iskan, it's also, it looks like ribis. Ashton, now that you invested, we partners. I don't have we partners when you go into proper partnership, many times one partner does more work than the other partner. It's not alone, Bichlal. My comrades, what are you going to tell me? I did extra work because I had to take care of this animal. Amrinshi, people say, Stamarisa, a Aris who works in a field for the owner of the field, Lemore Ara to the owner of the field, Komishabed Nafshe, he's Meshobet to him, Lasuil Raya to help him with his cattle. So therefore, that they did a bit of extra work anyway, you my Aris, you committed to me. So therefore, you don't deserve. The whole reason why I was giving you extra was because I didn't want it to be ribis. Now that it's shutfus, there's no problem of ribis. I'm splitting the whole animal. You're not getting anything extra. So we could see that the wife's idea to the Aris wasn't a very good idea. Not only he had to put his own money in, he also didn't gain anything more. He got less. Ton Rabbanon. We learned a case of Iska, and we estimated the animal, and he makes the animal bigger. Ad motai chayev letapelbo. How much the person who accepted, the manager, how long is he obligated to keep after the behemoth? Sumchus oima ba'asoinos, if we talk about donkeys, shmuinasa chodesh, 18 months. Begoidrois, it's small animals, chovdalet chodesh, 24 months. If the manager tells the investor, I want to split earlier, I don't want to do it 24 months, I want to do it only after a year, I want to split. Chaveroi, the investor, Ma'akabolov, and he says, no, we had the deal, you have to take it until the end of the term. Further, continue the Bryce. He says that the year number one is not like the taking care of it. Year number one is not like taking care of it year number two, because year number two there's much more, it's a much bigger animal and it needs to eat much more food, and therefore it's more work. Says the Gemara, now it says over here, but it's not similar. Says the Gemara, and we're going to read like the Gillian. My avol de Karma, it doesn't make sense, the Loshen avol. We said that you can't split in middle. And the reason is why, because the work of year number two is much harder, and therefore the deal was for 2 years, so you can't take the easy year and leave me with the hard year. So therefore it should be lefi. It should be, that's why you can't split. Why is it saying avol? But really the second year is harder. What's but about it? That's the reason. It's not but, it's because. So the Gemara, elo lefi. We go as in the Bryce, not but, we go as because. You know why he can't split in middle? Because lefi she'ein doimet tipula shel shana zu, that the year number one is much easier, letipula shel shana acharet, that's much more work, and therefore you can't split in middle, and that's the reason why you can't split in middle. Tanya Yidochulint in another Bryce, as Shom be'ima lechaver, someone gave an animal to his friend in an iska type of deal. Ad mosai chayav letape with lodos, and this animal had babies. How long does he have to take care of the babies? Bedako, if it's a small animal, lamed yoim, 30 days. Uvegaso, nun yoim, a big animal, 30 days. Rabbi Yosi yoim, bedako gimel chadoshim. No, he says that with a small animal, you have to take much longer to take care of the baby, 3 months. Why? Mipnei shetipula miruba. It's harder work. You have to work hard over the baby. Says the Gemara, mighty pula but what's the reason? Says the Gemara, because a cow, even when it's young, it starts eating by itself. But a small animal like a sheep or goat, it needs the mother and someone who's an expert to feed her. and it's hard to feed them because they don't have such good teeth when they're young, and therefore you have to leave it by the mother and by this expert who's a manager up to 3 months. So really after 3 months, what happened, or after 50 days or 30 days, what did it really? So let's say Reuven, who was an investor, he gave Shimon, the manager, this animal. This animal had 2 babies. So really one belongs to, after the time that Shimon has to take care of the babies, one belongs to Reuven and one belongs to Shimon. So says the Gemara, says the Brisa, Mikan va'eloch, if Reuven wants to leave this animal, this baby, by Shimon to keep making the baby bigger and to split like a iska, noitel mechza shaloi. So the manager, there's 2 babies, so his half, that means one animal goes totally his, it's totally Shimon's, and it's nothing to do with Reuven. The chetzi mechzo, and half of the half, meaning the one animal, that means half of Reuven's animal, he also gets from that, because now really this goes back after the time that he has to take care of it, let's say 3 months or 50 days. So now really goes back to Reuven. Now if Reuven basically wants to give this animal to Shimon to take care of, so it's like a new iska. So what's it in by iska? 50-50. And therefore, when in the 2 babies, one baby goes fully to Shimon and the other baby 50-50 between Reuven and Shimon. Rav Minoshia bar Goda shokal mechza sheloi umechzo b'shel chaveroi. He had such a case, and he had these babies, and he left it by him. And after the 3 months of the time that you have to have them by you, and he kept them by him, and then he said, okay, I want to get, one of them is totally mine, and half of the other one is also mine, like we just said. Also, the Kamei Abaye, this case came in front of Abaye. Omalei, Abaye said, man palagloch. Did you go to Besdin to say, and okay, we want to split, one goes to Reuven and one goes to Shimon, that to see which one's animal is bigger, or do they have the same value? Maybe they don't have the same value. Did anyone estimate how much you're worth after 3 months and how much you're worth now that they went up in value? In our city, the minig is that someone who takes a iska and there's babies, the minig is to have them much longer by him. The minig is to legadel. But now we learned in the Mishnah, mokom shenogu legadel. In a case where the minig is to leave the babies by the manager for longer, you gadlu, that's what you have to do. So therefore, you can't take half of his behema. First, we don't know how much it went up in value, and also the minig is here that you have to take care of it. It's his, and you have to take care of it for a longer period of time. Hanu trei kutoy, there's 2 kutim. The obud iske ba'ad adod, the iske, like we were saying until now, chetzi b'schar, chetzi behefset. Ovil chad minayu, polig zuze beloy daite. Now the money was all in cash, and one of them wanted to break up the deal. So let's say there was £1,000. One of them took £500 to his pocket and said the other £500 belongs to my partner. Below that, the chavrei of his partner. Also, this case came in front of our papa. One said, oh, he split without me. The other one said, no, I split 50-50. Normally, if you want to split a deal, you need someone to estimate how much is a business work, how much is 50%. But over here, there's no nafkemina because it's cash. Zuzi, when we talk about cash, it's like it's split up already, because if we have here watches, you have to see this Rolex is worth like this, and this Patek Philippe is worth like this, and you have to estimate the value to see that it's not taking too much. But here it's cash, 500, it's very simple. So therefore, no problem. The Shana, the next year, Zobun Chamer Ba'ad Adodi, they bought wine together to sell. Kom Idoch, the other one, who last year didn't split it, the other guy split it. He took half the wine to himself, like his friend did last year of the cash he did with the wine. Also, they came in front of our papa again. Omalei man palegloch. So our papa said, how could you take the wine without permission from your friend? Who estimated the value? So this guy, this kuti, got upset. Omalei kochazina, I can see the boss of the dikosi. Mar, you chasing me last year? He did the same thing, and you were happy with it. This year, when I do it, you're not happy with it. What do you have against me? Omar Papa told him, Kai Gavna, in such a case, what I do in a case where you want to split a business that's not cash, you have to lay your partner and you have to estimate it together. Zuzi mishakil tovi v'shavik chisru. When it was cash, did he take the good coins and left you the bad coins? For sure not. B'chamra, but by wine, kula al meyadi. Everyone know the ika de bossim, the ika de loy bossim. By wine, you have better wine and worse wine. So maybe when you split it up by yourself, you took to yourself the good wine and you left him the bad wine. So that's why you can't split it up by yourself. You need the best in or someone to estimate it or to agree together. But by the cash, there's nothing to go wrong. Said the Gemara Grufa, we just learned Omar of Nachman Zuzi, when it comes to cash command, the pligidomi, you don't need to estimate it. Said the Gemara Ani mili tavi v'tivi. If it's both talking about good coins, all the coins are good, so one could take 50 and it's just to count the money. Tikuli v'tikuli, or when they both bad coins that they don't work so well, so you took the bad coins and you left the other guy the bad coins. Aval tavi v'tikuli, if some of the coins are better and some of them are not good, you do need the estimation to see the value, because maybe you're going to take the good ones and leave the other guy the bad ones. Rav Chama ave moige zuzi b'pshita b'yoyma. Rav Chama thought of a great idea. Alva beribis is forbidden. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to lend my friend and say, take 10 and pay me back tonight 11. I'll rent out the money, like I rent out a spade. I'm going to rent out my money. I'm going to give it to my friend as a rental, not as a loan. This is for you. I'm renting it for you for the day, £10, and pay me £11. Kolu zuzi, Rav Chama. All his money finished, and we know that someone who deals with ribis, we'll see later on, he loses his money. Who saw said the Gemara, he fought, Rav Chama fought, Maishnomi Mora. What's the difference from a spade? Like you can rent out a spade, why can't I rent out my money? Said the Gemara, Velohi, it's a big, big difference. Mora, buy a spade, hodra beina, v'yoda pachse. When I rent out a spade, what spade comes back to me? The same spade. And also, yoda pachse, when he worked with my spade today, went down in value. So therefore, that's called a rental. Zuzi, but if I give my friend the money, even if it's a rental, lo yadra obviously what does he need the money? Not to show it off, he needs it to use it. So he's going to give me back other money. So it's not the same item that he's giving it to me back. But lo yadra parse, if I gave him 10 and he's giving me back 10, it's exactly the same amount. There's no going down in value, and therefore you can't charge for it, and therefore it's ribis, and therefore Rav Chama lost all his money. Omar Rava, shoyle leinish lemeima lechavrei. So Rava comes to tell us that there's two cases where you're allowed to give money to someone to lend money, extra money. It seems like ribis, but it's not ribis. So it's mutter for a person to tell his friend, hey lach dalet zuzi, take these 4 zuz, v'oisvele plani zuza. Reuven comes to Shimon and says, I'm going to pay you 4 zuz, and you lend money to Levi, £100, and Levi is going to pay you back £100, but really Shimon is getting the extra 4 zuz, because Reuven's paying him this extra 4 zuz, not the loiva, but Reuven is l'cheret ribis. He says it's mutter. Why? Loy osro Torah. The only thing that's forbidden, elo ribis, only extra, only interest. Abor miloiva lemalva, when the interest comes from the borrower to the lender, from the loiva to the malva, that's forbidden. But over here, where's the interest coming from? From someone else. That's not also. But Omar Rava, says Rava more, shoyle leinish lemeima lechavrei. A similar case, Reuven could tell Shimon, shokiloch arba zuzi, take these 4 zuz, omale leploini lois van zuzi, go to Levi, the rich man, that you his friend, and persuade him to lend me money with no interest. And l'chora, maybe it should be also because there's a loan over here, and this Shimon is getting paid for it, extra. So the Gemara, my time, and what's the reason? Shimon is not involved in the loan. He's only getting paid for being a negotiator, for being a persuader. And that's no problem. It's not interest on the money of the loan. Shimon never gave any loan. So the Gemara, similar case. The Abba Mar Bray de Rav Papa. Abba Mar, the son of Rav Papa, have a shokil ugne dit kira. He would take these small pieces of honey, the chalis, where the honey in the hive come into in these wax pieces, and you'd accept that mikuroi for the people who deal with wax. That was like his benefit, and then he'd go to his father and he'd say to his father, "Finuzuzi, lend our money to these guys who deal with wax." Exactly the case that we spoke about before. Omrle Rabbanon Rav Papa, so Rabbanon told Rav Papa, "Ochil brei de mar rabisa." Your son is eating ribis, he's getting these pieces of wax that you should loan them. Omalahu, kol ribisa, such a case of ribis neichel, there's no problem. Why? Lo yasser Torah. The only issa of ribis is ela ribis, only interest abomi loive lemalva, if it comes from the loive to the malva. Hocha, over here, this case that my son's taking this wax from the wax maker people, ochas char miro koshoki v'shor, is only taking money to persuade me to lend them money, and therefore it's not forbidden and it's mutter. Says the Mishnah, Shomin para v'chamoy v'chol dover shu oisef v'oichel emechzo. We said that you're not allowed to do iska, because why is a manager doing the work for the part of the investor? That's ribis. Says this Mishnah, if the investor gave the manager is talking about something like a cow or donkey or anything that when the manager has it, he gains from it. Like a cow, he could plow his field with it, or donkey, he could carry his loads with it. So he's gaining from having the animal in it. That's a payment for the work on half that belongs to the investor. It says the Mishnah, in a place where the minig is, when this animal has babies, he split it up straight away between the investor and the manager. He split it up. In the place where the minig is to keep them by the manager, you keep them by the manager. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Shomim Egel im Imoy. You could give a baby cow together with its mother. For an investor could give that to the manager, Vesayach in Imoy, and a baby horse with its mother. And it's no problem, like we learned early on, because the mother takes care of this baby. Mafriz means he makes it bigger, like pora verova, like making it bigger. And in the second, like that's the first pshat in Rashi. And Mafriz Roshan, like puruvu, he makes it bigger. We're gonna see exactly straight away in the Gemara what's the case. Said the Gemara, Ton Rabbanon, Mafriz al Sodeu ve'inu choishish mishum ribis. Ketad, what's the case? Asoiches sodem mechaver Reuven is renting a field from Shimon, Basar Kurim Chitim Lashon, and the agreement is that he has to pay Shimon rent 10 kur of Chitim Piyah. And Reuven tells Shimon, Reuven, who's renting from Shimon this field, he tells Shimon, tell him Osaim give me, except of the field, give me 200 zuz. I'll be mifarnas a field, meaning I'll invest into the field, maybe I'll put irrigation, I'll make this field better. And I'll instead of giving you the normal rent of 10, I'll give you 12. So it should be ribis. He's giving extra on this loan. Because of the loan, he's paying extra on rent. Said the Mishnah Mutter, you're allowed to do so. And the reason is because he has this 200 pounds now to invest in this field. So this field is a better field. Once it's a better field, that's why I'm paying you more. If I rent a field without irrigation system, obviously I'll pay less than I'll pay for a field with irrigation system. So that's why I'm paying extra on the rent in the field, because I'm getting a better field, because I had now money to invest in it. I can't take a loan if I'm renting from someone a shop or ship, and I'm taking from him. I say, okay, we agreed on the rent of the shop of the ship, let's say £10,000 a year, and now give me another loan, and I'll give you extra money on the ship on the shop. It's forbidden, because it has no connection. The money that you're giving me doesn't make my shop any better. It doesn't make my ship any better. It's no connection, and therefore it's just ribis. Why am I paying you more rent because you gave me a loan? That's ribis. Omar Rab Nachman, Omar Rab Barvuah, Pa'amim Shemafri al Chanu. Sometimes you're allowed to do it also in a shop. And what's the case? Lots of to, let's say, paint it or to make it look nice, to make shapes in it that look nice. Sfina also you're allowed to do with a ship. What's the case? To make the big cloth that makes the ship go faster. So we want to explain why that's mutter. Chanus lotzu baturosa, why the mutter the tzovu ba'inchi. It's like a field that's now a better field that has irrigation system. So now my shop has a nice painted. More people are going to come in. More people are going to buy. So I have a better shop. That's why I'm paying you extra rent. I have agrit fair, and therefore I make more money. Sfino lasis leiskiria. Why is the mutter? Kevin the shafira iskiria. Since I have a better ship, now it has an extra piece of cloth that makes the ship go quicker in the wind. Agra tfei, I can make more money when I take loads for people, or I take my own loads. I could get quicker from point A to B. I'll get more payment for it, or for me it's worth more money. I could sell my merchandise quicker and go get more merchandise. So therefore the item is better, and therefore I could pay a higher rent. That means the chilek is, if then the money that's given to be as a loan is going into the rental property, if it's a field or shop or ship, then it's mutter. If it has nothing to do with the rental that I'm taking, then it's forbidden because I'm still paying ribis. Said the Gemara, Sfinosa, a ship, Omar Rav said, Agra upagra. So normally when someone rents an item, he has to pay rent, and if oines happens, he doesn't have to pay. Or soiches potem oinsim. Comes Rav and says that a person could take a ship and pay the rent and pagra, and if it breaks, he also has to pay. Not like a normal soicha; it's the full responsibility on him. Rav Kana Rav Asi Rav Kana Rav Asi asked the kasher Rav, agra. If he's paying rent, loy pagra, why should he pay if it breaks? A soicha doesn't pay for intim. Pagra, if the full responsibility on me, that means I'm like a borrower. That's like a borrower. That's someone who gets money as a loan. Loy agra, why should I pay for the rent? It doesn't make sense. It's ribis. If the full responsibility is on me, so it's like a loan. How can I pay for that? You're not allowed to pay on a loan. It's ribis. Shoti Rav kept quiet. He didn't know what to say. Omar Rav Sheishes was there, and he said, "My time is Shosik Rav. Why did Rav not answer them? Lo Ishmiya lehodetanya. Did you not hear the brisa that we're going to just bring? That what did it say in the brisa? Afal pisha omru ein mekablim tzoin barzel misrol. So tzoin barzel means sheep that are like metal. That means that they're very strong. That the investor comes to the manager and he tells him, take these sheep and you take full responsibility if they go down in value or die or whatever happens on it. And on the profits, I want to split 50-50. So that's even worse than an iska, because it's like a full loan and he still has to pay him 50% of the profit. That's called tzoin barzel, and it's barzel, it's strong to the investor. And tzoin, Rashi explains, because normally they do it with tzoin. So you're not allowed to accept such a deal from a Jewish person, because it's like ribis. From goyim, you're allowed to accept. But they said, if someone estimated a cow and the iska to his friend, and he told him, the manager told the investor, I'm accepting that this cow, if something happens to it, if it dies, I have to pay you 30 dinar. And I'll pay you, and I'll work with this cow, and I'll pay you one seller every month. Mutter, there's no problem to do it, because he didn't accept on him if it dies or if something happens to him. Obviously, it's a steer. We just said he did do it domim. He estimated it for 30 dinar, but we'll see that in a second. But the Brisa says it's mutter to do so because it's just a schurus. He's paying him for rent. Asking more of a lawyer saw, did he not do estimation how much it's value that if he dies he has to pay? We just said he did. Omar Rav Sheishes explain, what does that mean? Lawyer saw domim mechaim ela la'achamisa. It's not pshat that he accepted this cow for 30 dinar. It's not pshat that if the cows go down in value and it's worth only 20 dinar, he'll have to add 10 dinar from his pocket. All he said, that if he dies, then I have to pay you. But if he doesn't die, he gives back the cow as it is. And therefore, it's just a schirus. And therefore, by schirus, you're allowed to pay for the schirus every day or every month, whatever you agreed on. And therefore, it's mutter. So therefore, also by us, by the ship, if you'd accept the full responsibility in the ship, if the ship went down in value, I'll have to give the full value, then it's a problem. Then it's like a loan. You can't pay for rental. But because you only accepted that if the ship breaks, so that means until then, it's a rental, and therefore you could pay for the usage of the ship. Omar Papa Ilchis of the Alocha is, when someone takes a ship, agra or pagra, you're allowed to accept it that you have to pay if it breaks the full amount and pay the rent for the ship. So the Gemara on Ayin Omad Aleph, the people who deal with ships, the owners of the ship, and they're called kufra because kufra is type of like tar, and they'd always tar the ships all the time, so that's why they called me kufra, Rashi explains. Agra b'shas meshicha, when they'd rent out the ship to someone, they'd take the rent by when they'd give over the ship to the renter. Pagra, if it breaks, b'shas shvira, when it breaks. Ask the Gemara, Otu b'minoga talya milsa. Well, this is what the minig. Why are you telling me that this is the minig? How could you do so? If he has to pay if it breaks, the it's forbidden, like we said before. It's also to also take responsibility and also pay rent, because it's like ribis. So the Gemara, no, mishum de mastis tanya minoga, because we brought a brisa that we say that it's mutter, and the reason why it's mutter because the only achrayis is only if it breaks. But if it doesn't break and it goes down in value, he doesn't have achrayis on it, and we said therefore he's allowed to accept rent, even though that if it breaks he has to pay him. Therefore we're saying also, and that's a meaning, and that's what people would do, and it's mutter to do so. Shkoyach, everyone should have a blessed man, full of refuah, full of Yeshuas and Klal Yisrael, going through such hard times. We should see the Mashiach very fast, and Hashem should give a shalom, and we should be zoicha for shalom, and we should mechaben and sim shalom and shalom rov extra, because with so much issues of shalom in Klal Yisrael, something that we need to be mischazek on. Thank you very much.